I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but we have started the final exterior cladding process already here at the farm. We've got a whole pile here, all of the macrocarpa that we've got, and I'll show you. But right here, I've already started cutting up quite a lot of lengths. These are just some of the lengths that we're doing for the exterior cladding. These are going onto the panels, getting them fully done, so then our outside has this beautiful hardwood macrocarpa look. Now the macrocarpa is quite a common product here. We would love to go down more of that Western red cedar, but it was about at least twice the price of this, probably 2.5 times the cost of actually macrocarpa. But we're actually pretty confident. Once we kind of get a couple of layers of some sort of protective layer, get the stain on, this should actually be quite a nice finish. And this is going to be the same for interior. We've got the big pile right here. So I'm making my way through this. We've got double piles here of all the exterior. I'm about 2/3 the way through this top pile, and we've got another bottom pile here of all exterior. And on the other side here is all interior, another 2 piles, which is really intimidating because this slowly making our way through, and we've got a whole bunch of offcuts that I'm cutting down into smaller and smaller pieces for all of those little fiddly stuff around window frames and things like that. But we are starting the exterior, which is crazy to say because this process is happening so fast. And right here, once we get them cut into these nice pieces, we're getting ready for the stain. And the staining is going to be a whole process, and we're probably going to need a whole team of people because there's going to be 2 coats done to the exterior. And there's about an 8-week curing time between coats. So we want to get it down as soon as possible, get that first coat down, and then have that time to kind of sit, to really soak in, and then get that second coat and make it look that really nice, rich color that we're looking for. But that's awesome to say because this process is coming along very fast. Now, I want to show you exactly how we're doing these panels, how every single one of these framing, the plywood, and how we've actually got into the waterproof wrapping. They still got cavity battens and a few other little things, but I'll get to that in a future video. I want to show you how we're making these panels because I think it's quite an important thing. Show the exact process of how we're actually getting to this stage, because the next couple of videos are going to be exterior cladding, getting that on, getting the stain on, and then it's getting extremely exciting because these are going to start getting ready to go to site. And we'll be putting them in a bit of a crate, packaging them up, and doing this whole process. So let's have a look at just how we actually make every single one of these frames. We, of course, start off by taking all the lengths of timber off the pile and starting to load it up onto the cutting table. As you can see here, I'm actually starting to install the chock. Now, the chock is just a huge time saver for us because the whole house is done in panels. There are so many lengths that are so similar. So we use this sort of system to install the chock, and it just cuts out a lot of measuring. And it means that every single piece is exactly the same. So we've cut everything up to the lengths that they need to be in many different sizes, and we store it into this nice portable station that we have, and we can store up to a couple of panels worth of timber all ready for installation. This is actually where the exciting part starts to happen, because before this is just days of cutting timber and just storing all of these pre-cut pieces together. Now, the portable table that you see at the top actually holds a couple of panels worth of pre-cut timber. So once we've kind of cut all of these pieces, the panel comes together very fast. As you can see, it's just about grabbing the right ones and then putting them all together, and then it's just the simple construction of nailing them all together, bolts where they need to go, and just making sure all of these are very straight. Now this is actually a roof panel, so it's a little bit different. We're using 8x2s here. That's why they're quite big. But yeah, a lot of this actually comes down to measuring and just making sure that all of these pieces are perfectly straight and that every panel is actually the exact size that we need to. So when we put these things together, it just will really, really help making sure they are as close to the measurements that we need them to be. As you can see here, this is actually the normal wall panel. So this is the 6x2, and this is a level 3 panel. As you can see to the left-hand side, there's a little bit of a triangular section, which is the top of that is actually the roof, the angle of the roof, and there's actually a window that gets installed there. And we measure up everything to make sure all these panels are within a millimeter and a half tolerance on the diagonal. So making sure these are perfectly square. We want to get these as close to square as we can to help us with the installation process once we take it to site. So there's a lot of measuring, making sure this all kind of comes together, and then the plywood comes on. And this is actually quite a cool process because then it actually turns into a solid wall. A lot of measuring, and essentially we just start to get all the whole thing screwed down. As many bolts and screws as we can to kind of get the plywood down, and the plywood really helps to actually support the whole frame to stop it from doing any warping or any kind of changing. The plywood really, really helps to keep it nice and square. And it's just a lot of that until a bit further down we start to drill some holes. These will be the installation holes for the bolts from either end. This is where we'll be able to reach in and actually bolt the walls together and be able to actually take on and off these panels. And lastly, we just do a quick sand everything down, because the next stage after this is the wrap, and we want to make sure that there's just no splinters peeling the wrap. We want to make sure that this thing's actually nice and smooth. It's not, you don't have to do this. It's just something that we like to do, just kind of go that extra mile and just have something that's, we like to kind of go that extra mile, just make sure that these panels are as good as we can make them. Now that the panel has its framing and also the plywood, it's got all the holes drilled when it needs to be, all the bolts in the right locations, it's all labeled. Now it is ready to get the wrap on. And we start off by actually a little jig that we made to hold the wrap. We have these tables, everything in the shop pretty much is on wheels, so everything can move around. But we want to make sure that this wrap is actually very, very easy for us. There's only 2 of us most of the time, so we want to make sure it's as easy as possible, as quick and easy as possible. So we have the system that we've made so we can just drag this wrap straight over and it keeps it nice and straight. And then it's just about the process of fixing this now to the plywood, and it's just lots and lots of staples. We do a lot of measuring first to make sure this is perfectly straight, and then we bring out the staple gun and we just start stapling this down. Now there is a specific way that we actually have done a little course to make sure that we're putting this on right, but essentially we just want to make sure that this is like a snooker table, just perfectly flat, nice and stretched, and just make sure that this is very, very well covered. Then the last stage of this is a quick go around of all the edges, and wherever you've stapled, wherever you have pierced the waterproof wrapping, you need a tape to make sure this is waterproof once it actually gets all of its exterior cladding and everything put onto this. So once this is it's all done, it's all fixed down, then it's just a simple kind of process of going around waterproofing every single bit on the wrap with a very, very thick tape. It's like tar. If tar was in a tape form, this would be it's a very, very strong tape.
and it's, this keeps everything nice and waterproof.
I want to show you a couple little sneak peeks into what we're doing in the future videos, because right behind me here, we have started the roof panels. These are big boys. These things weigh like half a ton. We've already got the insulation in, cavity battens, and they're getting actually their final finishing done, which we had to wait for. We're having to wait a couple of weeks. There was just a little bit of a mishap in the roofing side of things with the connections, so we're waiting for those proper connections. But we've started the roof already, which is awesome, awesome news. And behind me here, we are already installing the windows and doors, which is so cool to say. These things are absolutely cool, and I'll show you this. Hopefully I can show you this without tipping this whole thing over. But just here, we have a simple halfway, tilts these things open like that. So it has this 3-stage tilt and lean system, just like the European one. And then all the way opens like a normal door. These are actually windows. All of our windows have this exact same system, which is quite cool to say. And I'll go into more detail with how we're actually putting these in, because it's a whole process. These sort of things are taking a lot longer than we wanted. The roof panels are taking way longer than we thought. There's just a whole lot of complications to those. And those windows and doors, it's all new to us, but we are already, that's all level 3. That's all stuff that's getting done already on level 3. So stay tuned for these future videos, because there's some exciting stuff coming up, and subscribe so you do not miss any future video.